The taste of cheap ramen still haunts me sometimes. 10 years of it. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, while I worked 3 jobs to save my parents' house. But tonight was supposed to change everything. I'd finally paid off their mortgage, down to the last penny. My name is Scarlett, and I spent my entire 20s and early 30s being the responsible one, the dependable one, the one who gave up her dreams so others could chase theirs. "The decorations look perfect," my mother Caitlin whispered, helping me hang the last "congratulations" banner across our living room, "though I still think you went overboard with the catering." I smiled tightly, remembering all the birthdays I'd missed because I was working overtime. "It's a special occasion, Mom. The house is finally free and clear." The doorbell chimed. Soon our modest living room filled with family friends, distant relatives, and neighbors. My younger brother Anton arrived fashionably late with his girlfriend Bethany, both sporting expensive new clothes that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Sis," Anton wrapped me in a cologne-heavy hug. "This spread looks amazing. You always were good at organizing stuff." Organizing stuff. Right. Like organizing 3 simultaneous jobs while he bounced between finding himself and his latest get-rich-quick schemes. "Where's Dad?" I asked Mom, checking my watch. The catered food was getting cold. "Oh, you know your father. Probably still at the hardware store getting that new drill he's been eyeing." When he finally arrived, Marvin Hunter carried no hardware store bags. Instead, he clutched a bottle of champagne and wore the same grin he'd had when Anton made the high school football team. "Everyone gather round," Dad called out, tapping his glass with a spoon. "I've got a wonderful announcement to make." This wasn't part of the plan. I'd prepared my own speech about family and perseverance, about finally reaching the finish line together. "First," Dad continued, "I want to thank Scarlett for organizing this lovely party. She's always been our reliable one. The reliable one, like a dependable appliance. But the real excitement is about Anton." Dad's voice rose. "Our boy has finally found his calling. He's going to be a travel vlogger. Already has 10,000 followers on that TikTok thing." Bethany squeezed Anton's arm proudly, while my stomach twisted into knots. "We've been talking about it for months," Dad went on, "and your mother and I decided to help jumpstart his career. We've remortgaged the house to fund his first year of travel content creation." The champagne glass nearly slipped from my fingers. "You what?" "Isn't it exciting?" Mom touched my arm. "Anton's going to see the world, share his experiences. He's so photogenic, you know. The camera loves him." The room spun slightly. 10 years of ramen noodles, of walking to work in the snow because I couldn't afford car repairs, of watching my youth slip away one overtime shift at a time. "When—" I cleared my throat. "When did you take out this new mortgage?" "Oh, about 3 weeks ago," Dad said casually. "Right after you made that final payment. The timing couldn't have been better. The equity was there for Anton to finally chase his dreams." Someone laughed. Someone else started asking Anton about his planned destinations. I stood frozen, champagne turning warm in my hand, as the past decade of sacrifice dissolved into nothing. "To Anton," Dad raised his glass. "To new beginnings." The room echoed with cheers while I calculated exactly how many hours I'd worked to pay off a house my parents had immediately leveraged for my brother's social media fantasies. How many nights I'd lain awake wondering if I'd ever have a life of my own. "Scarlett?" Mom touched my arm again. "Aren't you going to toast your brother's success?" I looked at her soft, expectant smile, at Dad's proud beam directed entirely at Anton, at my brother's casual confidence that the world would simply hand him everything he wanted. "Excuse me," I whispered. "I need to make a phone call." I slipped away from the party, my fingers already dialing a number I'd hoped I'd never need to use. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Trevor Anderson's office." "Trevor? It's Scarlett Hunter." I took a deep breath. "Remember that contingency plan we discussed? The one about protecting my interests in the house payments?" "I do." His tone was professional but knowing. "Would you like me to proceed?" Through the doorway, I could see Anton holding court, describing the exotic locations he'd visit with my decade of sacrifice. Mom and Dad hung on his every word. Yes, I said quietly. It's time to proceed. I locked myself in the upstairs bathroom, pressing my forehead against the cool mirror. The muffled sounds of celebration drifted up through the floor vents. Laughter, glasses clinking, and Anton's voice rising above it all. Did you get everything documented? I asked Trevor, keeping my voice low. Every payment, every transaction, every piece of paperwork you signed, he replied. The trust structure is ironclad. Legally speaking, that house belongs to you alone. A knock on the bathroom door made me jump. Scarlett? Honey, are you okay? Mom's voice carried that familiar worried tone she usually reserved for when Anton was having a crisis. Just a minute, I called back, then whispered into the phone. How long will it take? I can have the letters sent first thing Monday morning, but Scarlett... Trevor paused. Are you sure about this? Family conflicts can get ugly fast. Through the vent, I heard someone ask, Where's Anton's sister? She's missing his big moment. His sister? Another voice answered. Oh, you mean the responsible one? Always working, that girl. Probably checking her emails or something. I gripped the phone tighter. I'm sure, Trevor. Send the letters. After hanging up, I splashed cold water on my face and opened the door. Mom stood there wringing her hands. There you are. Anton's about to show everyone his promotional video. Come down and support your brother. I followed her downstairs, where Anton had connected his laptop to our TV. The crowd gathered around as upbeat music played over scenes of exotic beaches and cityscapes. This is just a sample, Anton explained. Once we get the real equipment, Bethany and I can create much better content. Right, babe? Bethany nodded enthusiastically. We're thinking of starting in Bali. The algorithm loves Bali content. Remember when Scarlett wanted to study photography in college? Dad chuckled, nudging Mom. Good thing she chose the practical route instead. Someone had to keep things running when I lost my job. The memory hit like a physical blow. I was 16 when Dad got laid off. Mom had sobbed at the kitchen table about losing the house. I'd promised to help, taking that first waitressing job after school, then another, then another. Actually, I said, loud enough to cut through the chatter, I never chose the practical route. It was chosen for me. The room went quiet. Anton's video continued playing, now showing sunset yoga poses on a beach. What do you mean, sweetie? Mom's smile turned nervous. I mean, I gave up college because you and Dad said we needed all hands on deck to save the house, but somehow there was still money for Anton's private school tuition. Now, Scarlett, Dad started, but I cut him off. And now that I've finally paid off the mortgage, after 10 years of working myself to exhaustion, you immediately remortgage it for Anton's social media dreams? Bethany stepped forward. It's not just social media, it's a business plan. We've done the research. Like the research you did for Anton's cryptocurrency investment, or his organic smoothie franchise, or his life coaching certification. That's enough, Dad's voice boomed. Your brother has vision. He takes risks. Sometimes that's what it takes to make it big. And who paid for those risks, Dad? Who covered the losses every time his visions failed? The promotional video ended, leaving the room in uncomfortable silence. Several guests began making excuses to leave. I think, Mom said softly, you're just tired, sweetheart. Why don't you go home and rest? We can talk about this tomorrow. I looked around the room, at the congratulations banner I'd hung, the catering I'd paid for, the family photos on the wall showing Anton's graduations and sports victories. In every picture, I was the one behind the camera. You're right, Mom. I am tired. I'm tired of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the invisible one. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard Anton say, Don't worry, she'll get over it, she always does. But this time was different. This time, I had planned ahead. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A text from Trevor. Documents are ready. I'll file first thing Monday. Just remember, once we start this, there's no going back. I thought about the trust documents hidden in my home safe, about the careful way Trevor had structured every payment to protect my interests, about how my parents had never bothered to read the fine print, assuming their reliable daughter would handle everything correctly. Well, I had handled everything correctly, just not the way they expected. Do it, I texted back. Then I started my car and drove away from the house I'd sacrificed everything to save, the house that would soon belong solely to me. Behind me, the party lights grew dim in my rearview mirror, and for the first time in 10 years, I felt something other than exhaustion: power. Monday morning arrived with a string of missed calls from my parents. I ignored them all, focusing instead on the legal documents Trevor had spread across his desk. Everything's filed, he said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. The trust documentation clearly shows you as the sole owner. Their new mortgage is invalid without your consent. How long until they receive notice? The courier should deliver it today. Trevor leaned back. I have to ask again, are you prepared for the fallout? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a message from an unexpected name. Mila, my cousin. We hadn't spoken in years, not since her own family drama had torn that side of the family apart. Saw Anton's travel vlog announcement online. Her text read, "Guess the party didn't go as planned." I stepped out of Trevor's office to call her. "Holy shit, Scarlett," Mila answered without preamble. "I can't believe they remortgaged the house. After everything you did?" "You have no idea," I said, then found myself spilling everything. The decade of sacrifice, the trust structure, the legal proceedings now in motion. Damn. Mila whistled low. That's some grade A revenge planning. But listen, speaking from experience, family revenge gets messy fast. What happened with your family? I never got the full story. She laughed bitterly. Short version? My brother developed a drug habit. Dad kept enabling him, draining the family savings. When I questioned it, Dad wrote me out of his will. Said I wasn't family-oriented enough. That's insane. That's family. The question is, Scarlett, what happens after you win? After you get your revenge? My phone buzzed with another call from Mom. Ignored. They need to learn actions have consequences, I said firmly. Oh, they'll learn, but so will you. Mila's voice softened. Just be careful, okay? This kind of thing changes people. Back in Trevor's office, I signed the final papers. My phone kept buzzing. Mom, Dad, even Anton now. One last chance to reconsider, Trevor said, holding the manila envelope. Send it. I spent the afternoon at work, deliberately keeping busy. Around 4, my phone lit up with a voicemail notification. Mom's voice came through, thick with tears. Scarlett, we got a letter from the lawyer. What have you done to us? Your father is... Please call us back. Please. Minutes later, Anton called. What the hell, sis? He exploded before I could speak. You're trying to invalidate the mortgage? Do you know how many sponsors I've already lined up? Funny how you can call me now, I said coldly, when you need something. This isn't fair. Mom and Dad said the house was paid off. It was, by me. Every payment, every repair, every tax bill for 10 years. So what? You're just going to destroy my chance at success? My one shot at making it big? I thought about all my shots that never came. You've had plenty of shots, Anton. This time try paying for them yourself. You've always been jealous, he spat. Just because Mom and Dad believed in my potential. No, I cut him off. They believed in your excuses. There's a difference. Bethany's voice came through in the background. Tell her about the equipment we already ordered, the deposits we can't get back. Not my problem, I said, and hung up. An hour later, Mila texted again. Just heard from my mom. Your dad's telling everyone you've turned against the family. You okay? I stared at the message, remembering all the family gatherings where I'd served dinner while others sat, all the vacations I'd missed to cover Anton's latest failed venture, all the dreams I'd buried under the weight of being the responsible one. My phone rang again. Mom's number. This time I answered. "How could you?" she sobbed. "Your own family." "That's funny," I said quietly. "I've been asking myself the same question for 10 years. We're your parents. Everything we did was to help your brother succeed." "And what about helping me succeed?" Silence. "The lawyer's letter explains everything," I continued. "The house is legally mine. The new mortgage is void. If you want to fund Anton's travel videos, you'll need to find another way." "You've changed," Mom whispered. "You've turned into—" She stopped abruptly. "Turned into who?" "Never mind. Just, please reconsider. For family." I thought about Mila's warning about what happens after revenge. About the cost of finally standing up for yourself. "You're right, Mom. I have changed. And yes, this is about family. It's about how family should treat each other." I ended the call and texted Trevor. "Any chance they can fight this?" His response came quickly. "None. The house is yours. What happens next is up to you." What happens next? I looked at my reflection in the office window, wondering if Mom was right. Had I changed? Or had I finally just stopped pretending? The next morning, I drove to my parents' house, my house now, with a folder of documents under my arm. Cars lined the driveway: Mom's sedan, Dad's truck, Anton's leased BMW, and Bethany's compact. They were waiting for me in the living room. Dad paced by the window while Mom perched nervously on the edge of the sofa. Anton and Bethany huddled together on the love seat, both glaring at me. "Here to gloat?" Anton asked as I set the folder on the coffee table. "No, I'm here to make things clear." I pulled out the trust documents. "This is the legal structure of how I paid off the mortgage. Notice the dates, the signatures, everything properly notarized." Dad snatched the papers. "This can't be right. We never agreed to put the house solely in your name." "Actually, you did. Remember all those documents you signed without reading? The ones you trusted your reliable daughter to handle correctly?" Mom started crying softly. Bethany stood up, hands on her hips. "Do you have any idea what you've done? We've already paid deposits for equipment, flights, accommodations, non-refundable deposits." "Funny," I said. "I don't remember anyone asking about non-refundable deposits when I was paying the property taxes, or fixing the roof, or replacing the furnace." "That was different," Mom protested. "You were helping family." "And now I'm helping family again. I'm teaching an important lesson about reading contracts before signing them." Anton jumped up. "This is ridiculous! Dad, do something!" Dad was still scanning the documents, his face growing redder by the minute. "There must be a way to contest this. We'll get our own lawyer." "Go ahead," I said, pulling out more papers. "Here are copies of every check I wrote, every repair bill I paid, every extra job I took to keep this house afloat while Anton was pursuing his dreams." "You're just bitter," Bethany snapped. "Jealous because Anton has actual goals and ambitions." "I had goals too." My voice finally cracked. "I wanted to study photography. I wanted to travel. I wanted a life beyond being everyone's safety net." "Nobody forced you to help us," Dad growled. "No? What about when I was 16 and you lost your job? When Mom cried every night about losing the house? When you both guilt-tripped me about family responsibility while sending Anton to private school?" The room fell silent except for Mom's quiet sobs. "You wanted a house to remortgage," I continued, gathering the documents back into my folder. "Get your own. This one's mine." "You've turned into your Aunt Rachel," Mom blurted suddenly. I froze. "What?" But Mom pressed her lips together, refusing to elaborate. Dad shot her a warning look. "Who's Aunt Rachel?" I demanded. "Nobody," Dad said quickly. "Your mother's upset. She doesn't know what she's saying." Anton's phone chimed. Probably another sponsor notification. The sound snapped me back to the present. "The legal situation is clear," I said, standing. "The new mortgage is void. You have no claim to this property." "So what now?" Anton asked bitterly. You're throwing your own family out on the street? No. I'm giving you all 30 days to make other arrangements. That's more consideration than you showed me when you remortgaged my decade of sacrifice without even telling me. Please. Mom reached for my hand. We can work something out. Family should. Don't. I pulled away. Don't talk to me about family. Not anymore. As I turned to leave, Bethany called out, You'll regret this. You'll end up alone and bitter, just like your precious Aunt Rachel. I paused at the door. Maybe, but I'll end up alone and bitter in my own house, one that's paid for, one that nobody can mortgage away behind my back. In my car, I sat for a moment watching through the window. Dad was on his phone, probably calling lawyers. Mom had collapsed into fresh tears. Anton and Bethany were arguing in harsh whispers. My phone buzzed. Mila again. How did it go? About as well as expected, I texted back. But Mom said something weird. She compared me to Aunt Rachel. Know anything about that? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, that's complicated. Family history. Dark stuff. Buy me coffee tomorrow and I'll tell you what I know. I started my car, taking one last look at the house. Through the window, I could see the family photos on the wall. Decades of memories, of sacrifices, of unspoken resentments. Coffee tomorrow, I texted Mila. I have a feeling I need to know this family history. As I drove away, Mom's words echoed in my head. You've turned into your Aunt Rachel. Something about her tone, about Dad's reaction, suggested there was more to this story. More family secrets waiting to be uncovered. Well, I thought, if they wanted to compare me to Aunt Rachel, maybe it was time I found out exactly what that meant. The coffee shop was quiet when Mila arrived, her dark hair windblown and her expression grim. She slid into the booth across from me without bothering to order. Before I tell you about Aunt Rachel, she said, you need to understand something. This family has a history of eating its own. What do you mean? Rachel was my mom's sister. Your mom's too, obviously. She was the oldest, the responsible one. Sound familiar? I pushed my untouched latte aside. Go on. 20 years ago, your grandfather died. Left the family business to Rachel. She'd been running it anyway while the others did their own thing. But your mom and my mom contested the will, claimed Rachel had manipulated him. Did she? Mila shrugged. Doesn't matter. What matters is what she did next. She liquidated everything, sold the business piece by piece, and made sure nobody got anything. She said if they thought she was manipulative, she'd show them manipulative. What happened to her? Lives alone in Arizona now. Nobody talks to her. She got her revenge, but... Mila leaned forward. It cost her everything. Before I could respond, the bell above the door chimed. Lorelei, our family's longtime realtor, walked in. When she spotted me, her face went pale. Scarlett, I was just coming to call you. What's wrong? She glanced at Mila, then back to me. It's about the house. There's something you should know about the new mortgage application. I already know it's void, I said. No, it's worse than that. Lorelei sat down uninvited. Your father's name isn't on it at all. He used some kind of workaround to bypass the disclosure requirements. If the bank finds out... Are you saying he committed fraud? Lorelei nodded slowly. And with the trust structure you have in place, he had no legal right to even attempt the mortgage. The bank's going to come looking for answers. My phone buzzed. A text from Trevor. Urgent. Bank flagged irregularities in mortgage application. Need to talk. That's not all, Lorelei continued. I just drove past the house. There's an eviction notice on the door. What? Mila and I said simultaneously. The bank moved fast once the fraud was detected. They're treating it as a criminal matter now. My hands started shaking. I'd wanted revenge, but not this. Not fraud charges and eviction notices. I need to see this for myself, I said, standing. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to the house. The notice was there, stark white against the dark door. Notice of eviction. Fraudulent mortgage application. Well, Mila said quietly, you wanted consequences. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. Papers were scattered across the kitchen table. Bank statements, loan applications, rejection letters from sponsors for Anton's vlog. A half-packed box sat in the corner. Look at this, Mila called from the living room. She held up a shattered picture frame, our old family photo, glass cracked across the middle. As I took it from her, something fluttered to the floor. A yellowed piece of paper, folded small and hidden behind the photo. My handwriting, from years ago. Dear future me, don't forget how this feels. Don't forget sitting at this desk while they're all at Anton's game. Don't forget the promises they break. Don't forget. Scarlett, age 16. Jesus, Mila whispered, reading over my shoulder. You really were the family Rachel. My phone rang, Mom's number. Where are you? I answered. At your Aunt Linda's, she sobbed. The bank, they're saying your father. Scarlett, what have you done to us? What have I done? Dad's the one who committed fraud. He only did it because you trapped us, because you tricked us with those trust documents. In the background, I heard Dad yelling about lawyers. Anton's voice rose too, something about ruined opportunities. Mom, I said firmly, I didn't force Dad to commit fraud. I didn't force any of this. Your choices led here, not mine. You're just like Rachel, she spat, destroying your family for revenge. I looked at the teenage note in my hand, at the shattered family photo. Maybe Rachel had her reasons too. After hanging up, I sank onto the couch. Mila sat beside me. What are you going to do? She asked. Through the window, I watched a bank representative tape another notice to the door. My phone buzzed with messages from Trevor about fraud investigations and legal implications. I wanted justice, I said quietly. But this? Karma's a bigger bitch than either of us, Mila replied. Question is, are you ready for where this road leads? I looked down at my teenage self's warning note again. Don't forget how this feels. But I never could have imagined it would feel like this. The knock on my condo door came at 11 p.m. I opened it to find Mom standing there, mascara streaked down her face, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Anton's gone, she said without preamble. He took Bethany and whatever money they had left. Won't answer his phone. I let her in, watching as she sank into my pristine white armchair, the first piece of real furniture I'd bought for myself after years of secondhand everything. Your father's not eating, she continued. Just sits there making lists of people who might lend us money. The bank froze our accounts. Because of the fraud, I said flatly. He was desperate. We all were. Anton's sponsors were going to pull out if he didn't start producing content soon. I walked to my kitchen, gripping the counter until my knuckles went white. And what about my desperation, Mom? All those years I was desperate for just one person to ask if I was okay. You were always so strong, she whispered. So capable. I wasn't strong. I was trapped. My phone buzzed. Mila. Heard Anton bought one-way tickets to Bali. Used your parents' emergency credit card. Please, Mom said, noticing my expression change. Whatever that message is, can't you just let it go? We're still family. Family? I laughed bitterly. Let me show you something. I pulled out my laptop, opening a folder labeled Receipts. Years of documented sacrifices filled the screen. Here's the receipt from when I paid for Anton's car repair instead of getting that root canal I needed. Here's the second job I took to cover Dad's medical bills. Here's the photography course deposit I forfeited to pay the property taxes. We didn't know. You knew, you just didn't care. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Dad, looking haggard. The bank called, he said, walking in without waiting for an invitation. They're talking about pressing charges. What do you want me to do about it? You could tell them you approved the mortgage, that it was all a misunderstanding. I stared at him. You want me to commit perjury to cover up your fraud? I want you to help your family, he exploded, like you always have. That's exactly the problem. Mila's voice came from the doorway. I'd left it open after Dad barged in. You only see her as helpful, never as human. Mom jumped up. This doesn't concern you, Mila. Doesn't it? I watched my own father destroy our family playing favorites. Sound familiar? Dad turned to me. The guest house. Let us stay in the guest house until we figure something out. While you what? Wait for Anton to become TikTok famous? He'll come back, Mom insisted. He just needs time to process everything. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mila. Before you answer them, remember Aunt Rachel. Remember what happened when she showed mercy. What are you looking at? Dad demanded. More schemes with your cousin? More ways to hurt your family? You did this to yourselves, I said quietly. Every time you took my sacrifice for granted. Every time you praised Anton's dreams while crushing mine. So this is revenge? Mom's voice cracked. Watching us lose everything? No, Mom, this is consequences. Something this family never learned about. Dad stepped closer. If you do this, if you let the bank press charges, you'll never see us again. Is that a threat or a promise? I asked. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom started crying again. Dad's face turned that dangerous shade of red I remembered from childhood arguments. You really have turned into Rachel, he spat. Bitter, vindictive, alone. Maybe, Mila interjected. You should ask yourselves why both your daughter and your sister-in-law ended up this way. I walked to my door, holding it open wider. I think you both should leave. Scarlett, please, Mom tried one last time. We're still your parents. No, I said. You're just people who took advantage of someone who loved you. There's a difference. After they left, Mila stayed. We sat on my couch, staring at the city lights through my window. You okay? She asked. I don't know what I am anymore. You're free, she said simply. That's what scares them most. My phone lit up with a final text from Anton. Hope you're happy now. Don't try to find us. I thought about my teenage self, writing that note behind the family photo, about all the years I'd spent trying to earn love that should have been freely given. You know what's funny? I told Mila. They keep saying I turned into Aunt Rachel like it's the worst thing possible, but maybe she was the only one who ever told them the truth. Mila squeezed my hand. Truth's expensive in this family. You sure you can afford it? Looking around my condo, at everything I'd built for myself while building their dreams too, I nodded. It's already paid for, just like the house. 1 week later, I hosted what I knew would be the final family dinner at the house. Trevor had advised against it, but I needed this closure. I needed them to understand exactly what they'd lost. I set the table with our best china, the set I'd bought piece by piece from thrift stores to replace what Mom had pawned for Anton's first failed business venture. The irony wasn't lost on me. Dad arrived first, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Mom followed minutes later, separately. They weren't staying together anymore. She'd moved in with her sister temporarily. Where's Anton? I asked, serving the pasta I'd made. Still not answering calls, Mom said quietly. His credit card was declined in Bali. Bethany posted something angry on Facebook, then blocked everyone. Of course she did. I sat down. Well, let's eat. The clinking of forks filled the uncomfortable silence until Dad cleared his throat. The bank's lawyers called again. I know, Trevor told me. Trevor, Dad scoffed. Your partner in destroying this family. No, I set down my fork. My partner in protecting myself from this family. There's a difference. The front door opened. Anton walked in, unannounced. He looked terrible, sunburned and disheveled. Well, isn't this cozy? He sneered, dropping into an empty chair. The perfect family dinner. Where's Bethany? Mom asked. Gone. Turns out she had her own backup plan, her own secret bank account. He laughed bitterly. Guess it runs in the family, right, sis? I served him a plate without commenting. He pushed it away. I brought something better than dinner, he said, pulling out a folder. Want to see what I found when I was cleaning out my old room? He spread papers across the table, disrupting the place settings. Old bank statements, loan documents, letters. See these signatures? He pointed. Dad's been forging documents for years, not just the recent mortgage. Everything. Mom gasped. Dad's face went pale. Anton, stop, he started. No, let him continue, I said, suddenly very calm. What else did you find, brother? Turns out our perfect father has been playing fast and loose with signatures since before Scarlett started paying for everything. Remember that college fund Mom's parents left us? The one that mysteriously disappeared? Dad stood up so quickly his chair fell backward. You ungrateful. Sit down, I commanded. You too, Anton. Let's finish what we started. To my surprise, they both obeyed. I have my own papers, I said, retrieving my briefcase. Every transaction, every forged document, every time money disappeared and reappeared in Anton's ventures. You kept records? Mom whispered. I learned from Aunt Rachel. I smiled thinly. That's why you really cut her off, isn't it? Not because she sold the family business, but because she had proof of Dad's financial fraud back then, too. The color drained from Mom's face. How did you... I found Rachel. We had a long talk last week. She sends her regards. Dad lunged for the papers, but I was faster, sliding them back into my briefcase. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. The house goes on the market next week. I've already talked to the bank. They're willing to drop the fraud investigation if everything's settled quietly. You're blackmailing us? Anton asked incredulously. No, I'm offering you an exit. One last chance to walk away with your dignity, if not your pride. Or, Dad challenged, or I send everything, Rachel's records, my records, Anton's discoveries, to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Your choice. Mom started crying again. We're your family. No, I cut her off. You're people who took advantage of family ties to commit fraud. There's a difference. What do you want? Dad asked, defeated. Sign these. I pulled out release forms Trevor had prepared. Surrender any claim to the house, accept that it's over. Walk away. One by one they signed, even Anton, his hands shaking with either rage or withdrawal from his influencer dreams. Now what? He asked. Now you leave, all of you. Don't come back. They filed out slowly, Mom pausing at the door. Was it worth it, destroying everything? You destroyed it, I replied. I just stopped pretending it was whole. After they left, Mila emerged from the kitchen where she'd been listening. You got justice, she said softly. But was it peace? I looked at the signed papers, at the empty plates, at the family photos still hanging mockingly on the walls. Peace was never the goal, I replied. Truth was. Mila nodded slowly. Truth's a hell of a thing, leaves a lot of wreckage. Yes, I agreed, gathering the untouched dishes. But at least the wreckage is honest. Outside, 3 cars started and drove away in different directions. Inside, for the first time in decades, the house felt clean. The real estate agent hammered the for sale sign into the front lawn while I watched from the porch, sipping coffee from a travel mug. The morning sun cast long shadows across the empty driveway where family cars used to park. Last walk through? Mila asked, joining me with her own coffee. Almost ready, just waiting for one more person. A taxi pulled up, and a tall woman with silver-streaked dark hair stepped out. Aunt Rachel. She looked exactly like her photos, but carried herself with a quiet confidence I recognized from my own mirror. Never thought I'd stand here again, she said, climbing the porch steps. Hello, niece. Thank you for coming. She touched the doorframe gently. When you called, I almost said no. But then you mentioned the fraud documents. Like aunt, like niece, Mila quipped. Inside, the house echoed with emptiness. Most furniture had been donated or sold. Only the kitchen table remained, the one where I'd first promised to help save the house all those years ago. They used the same tricks on you, Rachel said, examining the fade marks where photos once hung. The guilt, the responsibility, the family duty. Did it get easier? I asked, after you exposed everything. No, but it got honest. She smiled wryly. Though I hear you handled it better than I did. Offering them an exit strategy was kinder. Not kind, I corrected. Strategic. My phone buzzed, a text from Anton. Found Mom crying over old photos at Aunt Linda's. Dad sleeping on someone's couch. Hope you're satisfied with what you've done. Rachel read over my shoulder and laughed. Still playing the victim card. Some things never change. Speaking of change, Mila said, show her what came in the mail. I pulled out a postcard from my bag. The front showed a Bali sunset. The back held just 2 lines in Anton's handwriting. Hope the house finds a better owner. Sorry? Sorry with a question mark, Rachel noted. Classic non-apology apology. Better than what I got, Mila added. My brother still claims I ruined his life by exposing Dad's enablement. The real estate agent knocked on the door. We're ready for the final walkthrough whenever you are. Room by room, we documented the house's condition. Each empty space held memories. The living room where I'd worked on laptops while Anton pitched his schemes, the dining room where Dad had announced the remortgage, the kitchen where Mom had cried about bills. In my old bedroom, Rachel paused. I had the back bedroom in our family home, the smallest one, but it had the best view of the sunrise. The responsible ones always get the back rooms, I said. Until we don't. Back downstairs, the agent had papers ready. Once you sign, we can list it tomorrow. Should get good offers. It's a solid house. It should be. I maintained it well enough. As I signed, a car pulled into the driveway. Mom stepped out, clutching something. Wait, she called through the open door. Please. Rachel stiffened. Mila moved closer to me. Mom walked in, holding an old photo album. I found this at Linda's. Thought you might want it. Why would I want more family photos? Because these are different. She opened it to show pictures I'd never seen. Me at work, at the house, fixing things. I took them over the years, never showed them to anyone. Why not? Because... She glanced at Rachel, then back to me. Because showing them meant admitting how much we took advantage of you. How much I failed as a mother. Rachel made a small noise. Mom turned to her. I failed you too, sister. We all did. Little late for revelations, Rachel said coldly. I know. Mom set the album on the kitchen table. Keep it, burn it, whatever you want. Just know that someone saw you, even if we pretended not to. She left without another word. Through the window, I watched her drive away. Well, Mila said after a long silence. That was unexpected. I picked up the album, flipped through years of secret documentation of my sacrifice. She knew. All along, she knew. Knowing isn't the same as admitting, Rachel said quietly. Trust me on that. The agent cleared her throat. Should I come back later? No. I closed the album. Let's finish this. Outside, the for sale sign caught the midday sun. Rachel touched my shoulder. The house will sell. You'll move on. But that album proves I wasn't crazy, I finished. Proves someone saw the truth, even if they couldn't face it. Mila linked her arm through mine. So what now, cousin? I looked at the house, really looked at it. Not as a prison of obligation, not as a weapon of revenge, but as a structure that had served its purpose in my story. Now? I smiled. Now we go get lunch. The 3 of us. Family who chose to see each other clearly. I'll drink to that, Rachel said. As we walked to my car, I glanced back one last time. Some inherit homes, others inherit debt. I inherited the truth. And finally, that felt like enough.